Prynawn da, croeso I cyfarfod, diolch am dod. Hello and welcome to Merthyr Tydfil County Boroughs Council's driving scrutiny on Tuesday the 16th of December 2025. Please note that this meeting may be recorded and broadcast by the authority's internet site. Any person in view of the camera is, by virtue of attending, consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings being used as outlined. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Paula Leighton. Councillor Geraint Thomas is running 5 minutes late, and Dylan Thomas is on his way, so we'll be joined shortly by those. I think that's it, yeah?
Yeah, Councillor David Jones said apologies.
Oh, yes.
Not actually the purpose of speaking.
Okay. Item agenda 2, declarations of interest. None recorded. Okay. Item agenda 3, minutes of meeting, scrutiny meeting Tuesday, 4th of November. To approve the accuracy and enter into the record the minutes for the meetings, pages 5 to 10.
I move, Jen.
Yeah.
No, second.
Thank you. Okay. Action logs. There are some, majority has been completed. There are some minor actions still outstanding, but I'll liaise with Neil and they'll get an update ASAP with what's remaining. Any no comments, questions on that? No. Item agenda 5, community safety annual report. Declan, are you presenting?
I will, Chair. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's the Community Safety Annual Report. This report has been requested.
Oh, gee whiz.
That's a good song.
Did you vote? Those joined online. Declan is frozen.
Declan rather than go.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, sorry,
Chair.
That's all right.
I do apologise. It's cutting in and out my internet in the house. This report has been requested by Scrutiny to give a broad overview of the work done by the community safety team across the borough, alongside partner organisations such as the police, fire and rescue, and probation to combat crime and disorder. I'm going to give a very brief introduction today, which doesn't do justice to the amount of work being done by Paul and his team, but I'm sure everyone here will have read the report and appreciate how much is being done to protect all residents. This report goes into some detail on how antisocial behaviour referrals are dealt with and the number of referrals made for 2024 and for the year to date. There's also reference to the number and type of incidents logged by the CCTV team and the work done by the civil enforcement officers, namely the wardens, throughout 2024 and the year to date as well. Lastly, it's referenced within the report that many staff members are funded through the Shared Prosperity Fund, which is ending in March, and I can confirm that the local authority is doing everything it can to safeguard these roles and roles of other employees throughout the organisation. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Salmon. Do you want to add anything, Paul?
No, just to obviously for those online, myself as Head of Public Protection is in attendance, Ryan Evans, who's our CCTV and Community Safety Manager, and obviously Sarah's joining us online as the Director. The report I've done, rather than financial years, I've done it on calendar-based years, so you can get a full year's comparator from previous. Basically, the report outlines how we operate as a community safety service in the unique mini sections of community safety, so the antisocial behaviour team, civil enforcement wardens and the CCTV, so give members clarity on those 3 specific areas of work. And I invite any questions or comments from scrutiny.
Thank you. David had his hand up first. David, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the comprehensive report. I know others are going to be mentioned in the SPF, so I won't ask on that. But on point 3.5, a localised community safety team has been set up. I'd like to know when this was set up and actually who's it made up of, and what issues are being dealt with, and particularly, like, does this information get reported and scrutinised anywhere?
I can answer that for you, Mr. Chaplain. The authority is signed up to the Cwmtaf Morgannwg Community Safety Partnership Board, so that meets our strategic and our statutory duty to be part of a community safety partnership. But on such a wide regional footprint, it concentrates on high strategic areas where we can policy across the whole of the division. What we identified was that locally there's a lot of localised issues which didn't have that governance and reporting structure. So what we have set up is the local community safety partnership, which is specific for Merthyr Tydfil. That then will consist of key local authority partners. It's chaired by our portfolio member, Councillor Salmon. But we also invite the RSLs, heads of the local RSLs are in attendance at that meeting. Safer Merthyr Tydfil are also a key member of that meeting, and the fire services also attend with our policing partners. We're still establishing the core themes for that group, but they will generally be around localised ASB trends, localised problem-solving group issues such as hotspot locations. But we're also looking to introduce young people specific themes where we can work with our schools, outreach youth services, and look at items that are specific challenging for our local youngsters in the community. And we'll also be looking at community cohesion. Obviously, community cohesion is a wide-ranging issue, but each local authority will have its own specific peculiarities. So we're hoping the regional group can provide more bang for buck. In terms of governance structure, that can easily feed into this scrutiny as a crime and disorder scrutiny, and I'd be happy to bring reports to this committee on the work of that group, objective setting, and obviously outcomes from the work of the group. So yeah, it can sit within this crime and disorder scrutiny. The wider Cwmtaf Morgannwg Community Safety Partnership Board, as you'll be aware, that already feeds into a joint scrutiny committee under the Public Service Board. So I think the newly formed localised board will be more of an interest to local members and partners in terms of it will focus on the issues faced in Merthyr. So I hope that answers that for you, Mr. Chaplain.
Yeah, you've just had probably 1 or 2 meetings so far.
We've had the original inauguration meeting where we sort of set the themes. The difficulty and the reason why we haven't had a follow-up meeting as of yet is there's been significant changes amongst the senior structure of South Wales Police, and what we wanted to do was wait until those posts were fully filled, so those officers coming to the meeting will be there for the long term, we hope. So the superintendent has been recently appointed at the beginning of December, so it's my aim to have a meeting in January where we can then set those core themes and start setting objectives and measures that we can then feed upon to the board, but more importantly, bring to this scrutiny in the future.
Yeah, thank you. On 5.9, public protection orders to do with dog fouling, which has recently been set up, you said that obviously 3 fines have recently been given and in hotspot areas. Where have these fines been issued, and what are the hotspot areas? Because I know we've got one in Cyfarthfa. It's a particularly bad area.
Yeah, so the 3 that have been issued currently, fixed penalties. The one of them is actually for the Merthyr Town Centre. We got one in Cyfarthfa, and I'll have to check the 3rd one to see what the location was for that. So they've all been issued. So we're just waiting now to follow through the process for those 3.
And just to add to Ryan there, in terms of assessing resource, what we do is we will work with neighbourhood services. Any reports of dog fouling the council receives goes through to neighbourhood services. Most important thing is to clear the mess. Yes. But we will work with neighbourhood services to identify what are hotspot areas. and that will become the focus then of any targeted interventions. We'll also have ad hoc information supplied to us. That might be individuals with Ring doorbell footage, people who've seen it perhaps working in other departments of the council. So we'll react to those. But I think with the limited resource, what Ryan and the team will do is they'll have regular meetings with neighbourhood services, where are our worst spots, and they'll then form part of our proactive operations.
Will you be able to promote some of that you're issuing penalty notice by comms on your Facebook page and that to warn people you're out there and people are being caught?
That's something we're looking at doing, is a monthly reporting. You've probably seen it with fly tipping, where we're putting out our fixed penalties. As we move forward, that we will include other areas of work of the community enforcement team.
Thank you very much, both. That's my questions.
Thanks, David. Before I call others in, on the Community Safety Partnership Board, I think just a couple of other. I was going to ask, how will the impact of the local Community Safety Partnership Board be measured and reported back to members? I know you said you bring it back, particularly in relation to ASV and community cohesion. So if obviously come back to scrutiny, but if we can be kept up to date as well, how it's going, that would be good. Clive, did you have a question on that?
Yes, I did, Chair. Thanks. I think you did mention in relation to the Cwm Community Safety Partnership Board that there's a police restructuring. Isn't that connected? Because would the police send in representatives to that board?
Sorry, Councillor Joseph, I think I was clear. The COMTAF board is up and running, and it's done on a BCU unit, which is South Wales Police's, and obviously our health board footprint. Our local, we've just had a new inspector come into post, which you've probably met, Inspector Parfit. There's a new separate superintendent who started at the beginning of December.
And who's that by?
Michelle Conqueror's left. And I believe, and I'm looking at Sarah on the screen if she's able to help me with the name.
Superintendent Matt Lewis.
Thank you, Sarah. Superintendent Matt Lewis is very new in post.
Right.
So once he's got his feet under the table, then obviously we'll have our next board meeting as a local board in January, where the new inspector, the new superintendent will be in post. And then obviously any tasking that comes out of that meeting, we've got the right officers from South Wales Police there.
Leads to another question on that. Do the South Wales Police, when they've got these new appointments, notify the local authorities covered in the PCA?
Yes.
So Merthyr Tudful has already been notified that this Mark Lucas, is it?
Yeah.
Yes. Lewis.
Yeah, he's a comedian, I think.
They introduce, obviously Sarah as director would have been the first point of contact for the superintendent to introduce himself. Inspector Parfit, I've worked really closely since he's been in post with. They do introduce themselves, and I think the view is then they'll come to scrutiny as needed, or individual member disputes, then obviously they'll be involved as well.
Right. Okay, thanks. And on that same paragraph 3.4, second sentence, talk about the strategic themes, and he refers to serious organised crime, counter-terrorism, substance misuse. What is VAWDASV?
Sorry, that's violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence.
That'd be like new pathways to cover the sexual violence, and then SMT would cover the sexual violence.
Okay, I couldn't remember what it...
Sorry, apologies.
And on the same page where we got under the heading CCTV 3.8 to 3.9, we all know about the SPF funding. There's no announcement being made. And I think we're waiting for the announcement for the UK Growth Fund, which is supposed to be a replacement for some of that. But if there are 3 part-time evening economy officers funded by SPF, if they're not covered, and then in relation to civil and park enforcement officers, there are 4 of that team currently funded by SPF. It's a lot of ifs here. If and when we get the announcement, it depends then what the amount is for covering local authorities, But if, in the event that there's a total of 7 officers there that wouldn't be replaced, have we got plan A, B and C in place to try and see what we can do about that?
Well, the plan B and C will obviously be cutting the cloth in terms of service delivery on what the resource is. So in terms of our civil enforcement officers, then obviously they still got to I still have officers in post, but in terms of the stretch of those officers and their priorities, that will be determined by intelligence coming through the door, and there'll obviously be a limitation on what they can do in a day.
Yeah,
I think Sarah wants to
right,
come in.
okay.
So before you come in, do you know the split of capital and revenue for the social growth fund as well at the moment?
No, that's what's just going to come in and say, Chair. Obviously, depending on when that further detail comes through, obviously the UK government has confirmed there is no successor SPF fund. There will be a local growth fund, but we do not know the finer details of what the criteria for that fund will be. So, you will obviously know as councillors, because it came to the council meeting last early in December, that obviously we had started conversations with trade unions and with staff who were affected by this. But until we get any further detail, we're not going to be able to know, one, the funding envelope, so the total funding envelope for what that local growth fund looks like and what the criteria is. So we're not certain yet sort of what projects, are actually might be eligible going forward. So, but as obviously Paul is working intensely, obviously, and other affected teams across the organisation with HR to look at as many other sort of opportunities and ways of securing different sources of funding. So we will continue to do that in terms of the officers affected within this. But until we get any further certainty around the funding envelope and the details of the criteria, it's very difficult to give you any surety around that because we haven't got it ourselves yet. But we are working behind the scenes to see what other sourcing of funding might be available.
But yes, thank you for that, Sarah. But until we know if there's what the amount of money is going to be from this local growth fund, I wouldn't have thought it's going to replace and cover 128 staff that we've got currently under SPF funding. The service as we currently know it, both for covering CCTV and civil park enforcement officers, is not going to be exactly the same. It's you can't provide the same service with up to 7 less staff. For me, that's obviously, and for the public, that's an issue. Sarah, why has anybody at any level, anywhere, asked why there's no announcement for this local growth fund? And here we are halfway through December, and we've had to start the process quite rightly with discussion with the trade union because a lot of staff are affected. Does anybody anywhere know why it's this announcement hasn't been made yet? And does anybody know when the announcement is going to be made?
Well, I mean, the consultation on the local growth fund, I think, ends this Friday. I think that's right, isn't it? I'm looking at Paul and Ryan there. I think they're nodding. So obviously they're consulting on the criteria for that local growth fund. That's obviously been done by UK government. But I can assure you that obviously from an officer perspective then, chief execs have been lobbying Welsh Government and UK Government where appropriate. They have been obviously outlining the impacts and the risks around continuation of funding, as have directors of sort of, economy, a regen, and all of those networks. And obviously I think Cabinet members sort of expressed that they've been doing the same as well in terms of UK government and Welsh government in terms of the funding announcements, etc. So certainly people are have been gathering the risks and impacts of non-continuation of funding in different areas, but as officers we're doing what we can behind the scenes with the little information we've got at the moment to be able to look at what options we might have when an announcement is made. And obviously we I think again, it's been said previously, we're hoping that something comes through in January to be able to look at what the future might be then for lots of these different teams and the impacts then that might have on the work. And obviously we would come back then in terms of if there's particular impacts and risks on particular areas that we've outlined in the report.
Okay, thank you for that.
I think Bill, did you want to come in on the funding?
Yeah, that's a question asking the funding, Sarah. Where are we with the grants? Because I was told weeks ago there's grants out there to support what we're trying to do with those community safety team and bits and pieces. So are we got anything lined up, or are we heard anything?
Take myself off mute, yeah. As I said, so what Paul and I have been doing behind the scenes, as have other sort of managers and directors across the organisation, that obviously where we've got affected teams, like is outlined in the report, we've been looking at what other possible alternative funding sources there are. None of that has actually been confirmed in writing to us yet in terms of any other additional sources of funding, but we are actively looking at what else is might be out there that we might be eligible to provide funding to this particular area.
Thank you very much.
Just one more question, Chair. It's on under 5.10. It's on page 21 of the report, and it's in relation to the communities wardens. And it says, unfortunately, the service suffered from officers of long-term sickness, which resulted in a loss of 325 days, working days to sickness. So the operative word there is suffered. Is it? Are they still on long-term sick?
No, we're back to full capacity. During 2025, unfortunately, 2 officers were hospitalised, not through work, I hasten to add. It's non-stress related, it was matters outside of, but it required hospital treatment, so they were off for a significant period of time.
So that's from what, April onwards, we were at a full-time staff?
Beginning of the year, 2025.
There was no date and I didn't realise this was that far back.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Chair, can I finish?
Yeah, well, Phil's had his hand up for a while. Phil, do you want to come in? Phil, you're on mute.
Thanks, Chair. This is going back to somewhere else in the report, back to 3.7. Antisocial behaviour referrals. It's interesting that those take place, but what's lacking for me in the report is clarity about what these referrals actually are and how they operate. So it says that the authority accepts antisocial behaviour. So my questions, 2 of them are, what are referrals and who make those referrals to the local authority?
Yeah, if I come in. So how it works for the local authority, we've got 2 members of staff in the antisocial behaviour team, and they operate on a police computer, so the niche database. So majority of our referrals come, we've got a Merthyr Tydfil inbox on niche on the police computer. So PCSOs, police constables, if they've received a 101 call or if they've attended a scene, they'll carry out an assessment, and then when they record the occurrence, they'll make an assessment and then put that through into the ASB referral. Covers all manner of things, from low-level groups of young people causing low-level nuisance and annoyance, to these Suron electric motorbikes. All manner of things come through it, so that's the bulk of it. We also have a number of them then which are being generated through our wardens, our civil enforcement officers. They're on the ground as well. They're able to fill out partnership referral forms and get it in via that way. What was the second question, sorry?
It was no, that was it. You've wanted to know what the referrals actually entailed and who were responsible for making those referrals. So you explained that very clearly. So it's the police and the PCSOs plus the civil enforcement officers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. I got a couple of questions relating to what Phil just asked. In obviously 2024, 920 ASB referrals, 954 in 2025 up to this report, and what happened? There's 12 went to stage 2 and then 22 this year progressing to stage 2. What happens? Can you explain stage 1, stage 2, and what happens after stage 2?
Yeah.
Great.
So obviously you've seen the in terms of the numbers that's coming in. So 2025, 954 referrals. 448 of these were perpetrator unknown. So around about half, we'll have the referral come in, and that'll be treated as information, intelligence, hotspot. There's no one attached to it for us to action. But what action we can take is feed that into the community safety warden team. So if they're out and about, part of their briefing, we can say we're having referrals come from this particular location, but there's no ID attached to them. But we'll have a presence there if possible, and we'll try and assist in identifying who's causing the antisocial behaviour. Bulk of people, they'll get a stage 1 letter. So if a referral just come in for a person, massive drop off, they'll see an official letter come through. It's generated off the police computer. We put a little blurb in terms of what's actually happened. The overwhelming majority will see that, and that'll be enough to quell behaviour. And we've got stage 1 final warnings, then stage 2 first, and stage 2 final. When you get into the stage 2s, then we'll either bring them into the civic centre or to the police station. We'll carry out a partnership, a warning meeting as such. If they're under 18, we'll invite the Youth Justice Service. If they've got a support worker, sometimes if they've got a social worker, if they're under 18, we'll bring them in. And then for adults and things like that, we'll invite the social landlords to attend the meetings. So we'll try and really stop that behaviour by then informal means up until that process. Majority of the time, once you get there, it tails off then, predominantly. And then as you go further up, it's referenced in the report, looking at stuff like CPNs, community protection notices, and things like that. That's the formal side of it then.
Yeah, I think you answered my next question. It was because obviously the numbers are like from there, it was 12 and 22 were quite low. But then I think you've answered that within feedback. Yeah, and then
I suppose it's really important just to mention as well is as we're progressing up, it's within a 6-month window. So once you've been issued, say, a stage 1 final warning, you reset then. So if you've gone over 6 months period where nothing's happened, it sort of resets back to the start then.
It does look like it's working then, if that's the reason. We're down to 12 and 22. I think that's pretty good. Has anybody got anything on that, Bill?
Oh, I don't know. I got my own.
Yeah, fine. Anybody got anything on what I've just asked? Or
No.
Yeah, I just wanted clarification, Brian, when you say, what in the report it refers to 428 of these were perpetrated and no ID attached. Is that anonymous?
Also, we've witnessed something happening, or it could be boy racers or car cruising in the college car park. I don't know who's doing it, but it's causing.
So you might have, say, boy racers, you might have, I don't know, dozen calls on that from a wide variety.
Yeah.
But you don't know who the ones are.
That's it.
Right.
So the person calling in, they might say, did you take a reg? Do you know who's doing it? And they'll just say no, but I just want to let you know it's happening. in the street.
So even though you'll have, I don't know, a dozen or 2 dozen, that's one report.
No, so you could have 10 different neighbours call it in. That'll be 10 different reports.
Right.
So that will bump the numbers up effectively. It'll make it look like there might be one occurrence created on the police system, but there'll be 10 reports.
So, right, on one, because we're all on the same page with this one, these electric bikes, because I think there's a bill going through Parliament, the police bill, which refers to electric bikes, and it'll give the police, all police forces, extra powers. When that comes in, it should be, I think, in the not too distant future, early next year. That, because we've got a problem here locally, but every other local authority has got the same problem. I mean, they're a nightmare. They're an absolute danger to themselves. They're a danger on the road. They're a danger to traffic. Surely that's going to help the situation with your department, because that must be one of the highest complaints you're getting.
I think if I can come there, what you've got some incidents which will be a criminal offence.
Right.
So that's what you refer to there, Councillor Jones. That'll make it an offence. So somebody riding a Suron bike on a public highway would be committing a criminal offence under the Road Traffic Act. So we would look for the police to take action against those individuals under the legislation. Antisocial behaviour will be a step down from crime. And that's where we get involved with antisocial behaviour referrals. So if you take the success of Operation Clutch, which Councillor Salmon referred to, our part as a local authority is our CCTV. So we will come to the table with imaging, and then we'll provide that evidence to the police to pursue criminal actions. And that's where the police have been reporting people for riding the bikes without appropriate insurance or seizing the bikes under the powers that they've got to do so.
So the antisocial part of it, Chair, we are involved as a community safety department. These people may well report the antisocial part to the police only, or as well as us. I mean, for example, this happens in every ward, and mine in particular, where we got complaints where these bikers go racing across grass verges. So there's things like that frankly will need to receive attention, I presume. I understand the criminal point of view and all these on the road, etc. But the police would know about the antisocial, which is, I agree, a step down from a criminal offence.
Yeah.
It's still just a huge annoyance and irritation as far as the public is concerned.
So what we may have, if we had, taking the best example, if we had 10 reports in one night of off-road bikes being driven through Merthyr Town Centre, we might have 10 different individuals report that in. If the police were unable to attend and obtain or intercept those individuals, we would then get those reports through that there was antisocial behaviour through people driving these bikes. That then we've got no individuals that either for crime or antisocial behaviour that we can contact. But that location then, that hotspot location, would be fed into a problem-solving group where they would work with us as a local authority. Can we design out crime? Could there be stealth initiatives? Can CCTV be better deployed to catch the individuals? So look at problem-solving the issue. But if we can identify the individuals, then obviously either via criminality or ASB, we can take people through the steps. So that's the challenge we've got, is either individuals be taken to book, or if resource-wise we can't identify the individuals, we look at every other opportunity to reducing the criminality.
Okay, thank you for that. I got one more question.
Bill, you wanted to come in first.
Yeah, sorry, on 3-4 part, right?
Sorry, Bill, 2 seconds. Sarah, did you want to come in on that before?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and in terms of obviously, this is why obviously ourselves and our sort of statutory partners are always saying how important it is to report. I know people get frustrated when sometimes they don't, immediately see things getting done, but it's still really important because a lot of these, like as Ryan just said, you could have a lot of different ASB, persistent, low-level ASB that is still affecting a community at large. If there are a number of reports, so there are a number of different things open then to a community, like a community trigger, which is a review, an ASB case review then, but you have to have the reports and the evidence to actually sort of trigger something like that through your community safety partnership. The other thing to say though is if, police or partners are taking forward criminal action, then a lot of that back history of persistent ASB and them going through a framework of referrals and those different stages can also sort of help paint that picture of, this is not just a one-off sort of, criminal action here. There is a persistent level of ASB that has actually then progressed. So that's why the reporting of what seems to be for some people quite low level ASB, but is persistent and is, really frustrating for the community on a sort of day-to-day basis. So important to refer them in, even if you haven't got all of the details, because that can actually then paint a picture over a period of time of persistent ASB, which has then sometimes led to sort of criminality. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Sorry, Bill.
No problem. Sarah's right there, because by reporting crime and everything, that's not goodness for a guy, as you know. Have you heard anything? No.
That's it.
That'd be right. Because at the south, and he will tell you, community come back, support us, and it forces, and it also forces you with the police to do something to say, without them complaints, we won't be where we are now. Anyway, can I go back on the report? On 3-4, who members of Contact Morgana Community, can I have a list of them? Because we've got a few names there, but then you mentioned, like, say, from Merthyr and bits and pieces. Can we have a list? Who's involved with that for us to know?
That's no problem. I can forward that out to members. In terms of the Contact community footprint, we've got the Health Board, Probation Service, obviously local authorities, fire service, police.
That's already, but I want to know what.
But locally here, I can provide you the list of the organisations that attend, but it's, in fairness, all the RSLs have signed up to be a member. Safe and Merthyr Tydfil are a key member, as you know. Local police force, local fire service, and then obviously our internal departments, licensing, community safety, etc.
On the association, how often do you meet them regularly, maybe certain issues, or will you meet them?
Operationally, Ryan will work with counterparts in the RSLs daily.
Do you work with you on housing, or just?
It's very rare. We need to bring housing in terms of a local department. Our housing department will look at homelessness and allocation. We would tend to deal with the RSL if we've got individuals in the properties that are causing issues. We'd work with the RSLs more than perhaps we need to work with our housing department. But transversely on the street, where we may have homelessness, drug issues, we work hand in glove with our housing colleagues because they have a homelessness duty, and we look to support those who are at risk to try and avert criminality. So we do work with housing, but not necessarily with the people in housing, with the people out of housing.
Right. On 3.8 CCTV cameras, we know we're on a cutback, but are we going to manage on the night shift on piece of because the day shift, we can sort that out. But it's the staff working nights, and the problem we have on the nights with the cameras, people going round, the testing everything. We always said the test goes last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So have we got a plan A or a plan B, or are we going to run away?
I think it's back to, as Sarah said, we're putting irons in as many fires as we can to continue the team. We're aware of the importance of the team, and we will explore every funding opportunity to keep those officers going. That work is ongoing. We're not sitting back waiting to be offered. We're out there actually pushing the importance of these officers, and we'll continue to do so. Obviously, we hope that funding comes forward and those posts are kept because they are critical posts. However, yes, I do accept what you're saying, Councillor Smith. There may be, if that money isn't forthcoming, we will have difficult choices.
On part two of the same question, Pen and Ray, we got a field in the pen today. They put in all these solar panels there and bits and pieces. And you know, cameras going right around the area. That's part of the question, because if you haven't got the staff to look at that, we know what's going to happen there, do we? You know, they're going to vanish overnight.
We're aware of all the risks, and as I say, we are actively pursuing every possible funding opportunity.
The other part of the question is, I had a meeting with a community, Southeast Police community partner last week. And the chief constable was there from Cardiff. And I did ask him a question, why didn't his commanders and superintendents attend the scrutiny panel meeting? And he didn't mention the word, because the last commander we had here, or superintendent, we never seen him. So what's the chances of us or yourself getting involved and ask him to attend? Right? Do we do it at scrutiny? Do we do it at a workshop? Or bits and pieces? I pick your brains in this, because we want to find out what's happening. So the crime is going out of control in certain areas.
I think Sarah can answer that.
Yeah,
What I
Chair.
said,
Sorry, Chair. I mean, I think, as I've said before, you have to have a purpose, obviously, to be calling, partners in to scrutiny. There needs to be a purpose for that scrutiny. We have obviously had, we did have the last superintendent come to do a council briefing for all members, and that worked quite well, because that was an informal briefing session where she was able to share obviously the progress that has been happening around the Clear Hole Build project in the town centre, but she was also able to give us some updates in terms of the neighbourhood policing, the changes that they were trying to put in place there, etc. So Paul and I will be meeting with both the superintendent and the new inspector in January, with a view to agreeing, how we're going to, work with each other going forward. So with the last superintendent, we had some sort of monthly meetings in that Ellis and I would meet with Superintendent Conker, and those were starting to work really well, be effective. I know Paul and the team has already built up a good relationship with Inspector Parfitt, and I know Inspector Parfitt has emailed out to all councillors, offering, engagement and further consultation. I know the cabinet member, Councillor Salmon, has gone back to him on that. So I think, the way in which we want to engage and consult with them going forward, I think has to be appropriate. Like Paul said, we've set up this new local community safety partnership. So that's another area for us to come together and talk about the challenges that we've got as partners, and try and iron some of those out and take things forward that we want to in terms of local priorities. Also, we've also got the regional Community Safety Partnership Board, which they're a part of and we're a part of, so we need to use that as well as another channel. As I say, I think, we did have a conversation with Superintendent Conker previously about maybe her coming into a council meeting, maybe every 6 months, to give us a broad update in terms of their, policing priorities and operational sort of challenges. So, we obviously, she's gone now, we've got a new one, so we could, maybe pick that back up with Matt in the new year. But I think, again, if we're going to invite them into scrutiny, we need to think about, the next forward work plan and in terms of what purpose that was for. Certainly that's open to you as councillors as one way. But as I said, we will go back and have the conversation now with the new superintendent, with the new inspector in January, and agree a way of how we're going to work with them operationally. But I think we've got a number of channels in which we can hold them, to account as partners, and them as vice versa. And we can then look at maybe exploiting the informal council briefings that we've put in place for you as members, because that might be, that worked quite well before, I think, and or inviting them into council meetings as well, periodically.
Thank you, Chair. Fair comment. But at the end of the day, we've got to know what's happening, because in my area, traffic, busy, and I mean, the bombing all over the place. Clive just mentioned the electric motorbikes. We've got them all over the place, where the parents take their kids on the bike a ride. So it's not just think forward, you've got a partnership. People can see it every day, complain every day, and no action being done. So that's what we're for. We're here to sort the safety issues and all that. They can have a big accident one day, but I don't know if they're going to say, yeah, one of these motorbikes, and people are going to get killed, and we'll end up arguing with the public, why haven't we done this and why haven't that helped out?
I agree with what Bill's saying. I agree with what you were saying, Sarah. Maybe we come up some wording. A couple of years ago, we had a workshop with superintendent. They came here in the evening. It was really, really good. It's behind closed doors. We could discuss lots of things that couldn't go into the public domain. I think maybe we have a look at what the wording was for that, and then maybe try to organise another one of them as well.
Yep.
Gary, did you want to come in on that as well?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Thanks, Chair. I believe we can have a workshop with the police, but I really believe what should happen is like the fire brigade do prior to us setting the budget next year. They should come in and explain what they're doing in the area to justify the precept they ask for every year. And I think that's something that should be an annual occurrence. Sarah, can we work on that one, please?
Yeah, we'll pick that up. And as I said, I'd already had the conversation with the previous superintendent about them coming in periodically to a formal council meeting. But I can pick that up as part of the sort of budget round discussions. Because other local authorities do that. They have, their local superintendent coming in, or the chief super, actually, sometimes, just giving them a brief overview and giving them some stats and some measurement and data, But I think there are lots of other channels that we can work through. Your packed meetings, we can probably improve, not us, but we can work with the police because they know that we need to improve them for communities. We can look at all of that outside the meeting. Pick up the sort of formal channels in which we can engage with them. And like you said, Chair, maybe maybe an informal workshop, maybe early in the new year, maybe to kick things off,
Yeah. Okay, Gary? Yeah, Bill, I think Bill wants to come in.
No, I'm right, tidy. Also, Sarah's all going to say the police are going to announce it in February, how much it'll be on the council tax.
Yeah, I've got two questions. One is in the report. One's a general question, which I'm sure my colleagues in the room maybe I'll be able to answer. 5.4, it says there, conjunction with Merthyr Tydfil Together initiative, 2 Crime Stopper zones were introduced with the Ffyniannus and Town Centre identified as hotspot locations. A launch event was held and signage displayed in key locations, intelligence reporting of crime. We will receive data from Crime Stoppers to assess the success of the campaign. Any idea when this data will be available?
So in the new year, we'll start having a monthly report. Once all the signage went up and these 2 sites were launched, what they've done, they've taken a snapshot of the data for that particular year, for this particular year. So in January onwards, we'll be looking at having a monthly report just to see if it's picking up. And in the interim, we've got the wardens, the enforcement officers going around businesses, engaging with the community to really drum up business, like Sarah and a few others mentioned, go under reporting and the importance of reporting. For those that cannot be convinced to report to the police for whatever reason, this is the safety net then, that one category underneath. Just a quick phone call or going online to do Crime Stoppers. They won't have to give their name or anything.
Right. So the data will be looked at.
The data will be looked at.
And updated every month.
Every month, yeah.
And we'll get to know those figures.
Yeah. So what we'll be able to see is for the Ffyniannus and the town centre, they provide how many reports are coming in and what the nature is, what particular crime is related to and things like that.
Right.
So break it down.
Thanks. And the general question is, it's not referred in the report, but you both deal with the police on a very regular basis. I was advised a few months ago, because I asked a particular question elsewhere, and was told that there would be increased policing staffing in our part of the area, Merthyr Tydfil, and it would happen in this financial year. Now, have they advised yourself, for example, of what staffing will increase and where it will increase? For example, I'm not sure that I don't think we've got the full complement of PCSOs in our area at the moment. Police officers on the beat, we haven't got, they need additional staff. Have the South Wales Police Force advised you when these additional staff are going to start and where they would be?
Yeah, the discussions we've had, obviously the national move towards increasing neighbourhood policing was a manifesto pledge. Yes. There's going to be additional resource in terms of neighbourhood policing officers. There's going to be a shared cohort between us and the Cynon Valley is the latest information we've had. And it will be a hotspot hitting team.
Right.
So if we have a particular incident that requires a dedicated neighbourhood policing support, they'll be able to allocate that team to those hotspot issues. So it'll be quite flexible in this demand. In terms of definitive numbers, we haven't had that as yet. And I think that would probably be, the new neighbourhood policing plan would probably be a good presentation for council, as Sarah's alluded to, for the new year coming. In terms of all members are aware of what this new neighbourhood policing model will be. It's encouraging from the meetings we've had, and I think it will go a long way to support the erosion of neighbourhood policing that has historically happened.
Right.
And be able to facilitate some of the frustrations perhaps members have had with local policing.
I didn't realise, Chair, that was going to be shared over in the Cynon Valley.
Yeah, there's going to be a shared resource between us and the Aberdare area, but it will be a team of police officers led by a dedicated sergeant. And then obviously, again, going back to the data and the importance of reporting, is if we are having a hotspot area, I mean, we've had them in Merthyr, the skate park at a particular issue, then you could turn to this team to come in and do a deep dive into the issues. And then that would free up your normal neighbourhood policing officers that they're not pulled from other areas into hotspot locations. So I think that team is going to be really important where we get spikes, that they can fly them in and actually get into what the issues are.
And the important thing, Chair, is that we know what the additional number is going to be.
Yeah.
Because we all know the police have been, under the cosh right throughout the country because their numbers were reduced by 20,000 during the last government's time.
I know from a government priority and I know from a PCC priority, neighbourhood policing is at the top of their list. So that will hopefully generate in these new teams coming forward, and I'm sure the new superintendent and inspector will be able to give finalised numbers and the operating model for how that's going to work.
Sarah, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It was just to say that obviously when Superintendent Conker gave us the update, I think it was in October, the figures that she gave us then were that the new sort of neighbourhood support teams would be 7 additional constables and 1 sergeant to be split between Merthyr and Cynon. They've also, obviously we've got the winter initiative ongoing at the moment, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, Ryan, that's additional funding in from UK government that is being used to sort of for overtime and additional resource where they need it for policing, isn't it? Neighbourhood policing specifically.
Yeah, the Operation Sentinel was a deep dive into data to look at within 100 metre squares to some extent of where the greatest ASB issues were. And then funding was released then for either outreach initiatives or additional policing hours or council hours to target. So The skate park, for instance, was part of Operational Sentinel. Youth outreach, there was additional hours allocated for youth outreach to work in the area. We've had additional camera as a result of this footage on a hotspot location. So as Sarah alluded to, winter, there'll be a replication of that summer scheme. But of course that might have a difference in terms of where the demand is.
But in answer to the point that Sarah's figures, no mention of PCSOs, because at one time, I think the whole of the 11 wards in the county borough was down to something like 4 to 5 PCSOs trying to spread out and cover the 11 wards. Now, in my ward, the Park Ward, it's only in September that we had a replacement because we were without a PCSO a few months before that, and coupled with the fact the previous PCSO went off sick. So for me, until we get back to the situation where these day-to-day members of staff, PCSOs, who are seen on the ground, that's their job, out there, day in, day out, getting to know the issues and picking up intelligence. But my understanding is, at this moment in time, we don't have one PCSO per each of the 11 wards, which it used to be. So that's, for me, that's an important factor. And I say that as chairman of the park meeting in the Park Board as well, because PCSOs, in my opinion, do a very good job, but we need more of them.
Would you be able to get a list of how many cover each ward and get back to us? Neighbourhood policing.
I could certainly get it as we stand today. But as alluded to, I think it would be worthwhile that the model they're aspiring to, the state to come in. I think that complementing the current position will probably add more reassurance for members.
Well,
we could certainly do a where we are now.
If you could say where we are now and where we want to be, that would be really good.
Yeah, but we can put that request in.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? All right, I got a couple. Is it like CCTV was mentioned just now? I just made a note. Have you identified any other areas that we could improve? If you could get funding, what would that look like, and how many more areas could, and what sort of cost would that look like?
So I think the town centre is covered outstanding in terms of CCTV coverage. Is really, really, really good. Earlier in the year, we've obviously covered Cyfarthfa Castle and the full perimeter, so that's been a big step. We've picked up that site and council asset. You could have cameras in many, many places. What we tend to go for is areas of high footfall. So if you've got areas where there's shops, so we obviously got coverage on the Gurner shops, the Swansea Road Getley Dig shops. So those are the kinds of places.
You had previous masts or whatever, and not all of them have been replaced, I don't think. Is there any with the old cameras or not in use anymore?
Yeah, so for the Gurnas, as an example, there's still some masts that you'll still see from dating back to the late 1990s, which would be from old BT lines from where there was coax old cameras. We're always reviewing it, so when stuff's happening, we're taking everything. We get requests from parks departments, so say Millennium Park down in Trearis recently. They've got some old cameras sitting on the same network down there. It's where we'll involve them discussions, and we get an IT involved. We'll ask if there's an internet connection, and we go through the motions. What's the need for them? And obviously we've got to fill out then like privacy impact assessments, and it's got to be evidence led. So if we pick a spot that a camera's needed, it's got to be that there's evidence that is needed.
The one in particular is the one on Sycamore Road in Gurnes. It's right next to Guydra Lane.
Yeah.
Constant flight up in there.
Yeah.
That's the one, the area which I reported to you guys, and thank you, it's been cleaned. There's lorry loads going down there, and the camera's directly above it. So I think that one, could save the council thousands.
I think what we find in terms of public space cameras, which is what our CCTV footprint is, the method behind public space cameras is high footfall areas. That's why it's predominantly town centres, late night economy. If you start to get into the granular details, so let's say, for instance, there was a property that was causing antisocial behaviour, alleged drug dealing, there's no way in the world the council would be able to put a camera focusing on someone's property, because we're in the realms of surveillance as opposed to public space cameras. And we would probably look for a police and RSL partners to lead on individual property issues, because that wouldn't be within our gift to put public space cameras identifying and focusing on a property.
Yeah. Where it is, it's not a property, it's an area.
So, but a hotspot area that's got high footfall.
And it's a route to school for 2 schools, from Gurness to Gwaenfara to Bishop Edley. That's a couple of few days. So it's it's not focusing on houses, it's just focusing on an area.
Yeah, we'll always address, and if one's become, either we can look to put a temporary camera in to see if we can resolve it through temporary use. But if an area is long term and the data supports it and funding's available, we'll certainly look at it.
I would say that is a lot, the Goedel Lane has been an issue for us as Gurness councillors and Garnock and Pendarren councillors.
Paul and that, it's the old Roman Run, the Goedel Lane.
Yeah.
He's well known for drugs. And that area between Gurness and Garnock, right, is top one. It's unbelievable. You don't know what's happening sometimes. So that's the area we're looking at. But as these chair said, it's the main drag down to Rhagfyr school. Right? And you've got 2 football pitches there. And that would be the main road to Bishop Edley.
Yeah.
So, no, we are concerned. Even the people are concerned. But so much for it tip in. That happens, and it happens everywhere. But it's a drug issue. That's something doing it.
And, Chair, I know there's some information Brian kindly passed on to us in the park board. There's what is new to me, new type of camera which can be fitted into the lamp on a street light, which is very small.
Yeah.
So you've got those.
Yeah. So we're currently experimenting with a new type of camera. It's actually in Clyde's ward at the moment on Brecon Road.
Where did he get it?
I know, and as Clive alluded to, it's slightly different technology. Yeah. But if requests and evidence are coming in for cameras to go in a particular locality where there's no options to connect it through to direct to the control room, this one offers up a solution, and it allows us then to evaluate if it's in place for say 3 months, 6 months. What did it pick up during that time? Is there a need for it? And then we can look at then more of a long-term solution.
How does that footage get to you?
It's got a SIM card in it, so it's and our street lighting department will put it on the lamppost for us.
And how long will that record?
Yeah, it'll get 28 days worth of footage, right. And you can bring it off. It's 4K footage live, and it's all done via the internet.
One question, it's obviously 28 days is a long time to go through it. Does it sense?
Yeah, so so if a request come in and he was a little bit late, say 3 weeks ago something happened between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m, we could go back there, and on the timeline of that 1 or 2 hour period, it'll have colours on there. So if vehicles or people have come past, you can go quickly on the timeline and go to the red or the green if you're looking for a vehicle or a person. Okay. So just to speed up the process.
Cool. Excellent. I only go, it's more of a comment than a question, I guess. Can we have ward level data and hotspot areas? It'd be handy for us to have it on a regular basis, but especially when this annual report. That would be really good and useful. I haven't got any more questions. I don't know if anybody else has. No? Any comments?
Well, yeah, just going back to the police, I think as far as the public are concerned, they need to see officers on the beat. You know, we know that they gather intelligence from various ways and places. But when they see neighbourhood PC, not in the vehicle, but out on the road, you know, the streets, you know, the PCS do it. They need to see the police officers themselves as well. And hopefully that's why I asked the question about the staffing, because it is reassurance for one, but number two, even the police officers will pick up additional things by physically being in the areas, talking to businesses, talking to the members of the public.
Chair, I believe our community safety staff are working well, right? With a team that got the numbers, there's only got two in front of us. There's two women working with the ladies, working with them, right? That's 4 girls. No, the community safety team is there, but we know what's going to happen to them in the next couple of months, so it's a bit naughty, and it's going to affect us. So we'll see what happens next, you know, but I think, as I say in the report, is all right. We get in there, but how do we stop crime? How would you get your head down this and sort it out? You never sort it out. It happens all the time. But we keep it to a certain level. That's the main thing.
Thanks, Bill. Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. You know, there was a lot of questions asked really about the SPF funding and the support those staff will have going forward. Over the last few years, you know, I've worked closely with Paul and Brian and latterly with Sarah, you know, and we've built that team, and it's a fantastic community safety team that we currently have. And that 188 letter that we put into the council last week to say, you know, the jobs could be possibly going, it's going to have a devastating effect on the team and a devastating effect on the community safety of Merthyr Tydfil. If that funding doesn't come through, no, we supported the police by bringing a lot of these posts in place, you know, and without them, the police have to step up to the plate. And I think come April, May time, you know, we could really be reeling from not having these positions filled.
Thanks, yeah. Just like to reiterate what my colleagues have said. It's really worrying. I think since like the 8 years I've been a councillor, this is the best it's been in terms of community safety. It's working really well. You know, there seemed to be a high level of crime for the last few years, but without you guys, I don't know where we would be. So post April, I do worry. I hope all the staff will be secured positions. Funding will come through. I think we all hope and pray that that's the case. Councillor Thomas, John.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just want to reiterate really what Sarah said earlier about that meeting with Michelle Conqueror. You know, I was lucky enough to be in that meeting because it was sort of town centre based, really. And, you know, she did say like there'd be 7 new PCs, not for Town Ward, but for Merthyr. So, you know, where are they? Like, what's happened? Why haven't they been put in post? Because she said it'll be December, you know. I like, you know, to the likes of Paul, Ryan, Sarah, herself, working your socks off, you know, with the police and everything. But then what happens then? You got somebody in post for 4 months, 5 months, superintendent, inspectors, and then they moved on. You know, you're doing great work with them people. All of a sudden, it falls flat, and nothing seems to carry on. You're going to go new protocol or whatever. You know, that's all I'd like to say. Cheers, Chair.
Yeah, I think we're all the same. We as councillors, we get somebody we get to work with, and then especially if they're good, they don't last. They don't seem to last long, and they disappear. So, Sarah, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, only just to say, Chair, I mean, Councillor Thomas is right. You know, we worked hard on those relationships to build a more effective relationship with Superintendent Conker for the time that she was here, and it was working, but we very much, we're not going to let that slip, certainly from our perspective. I've already made sort of contact with Superintendent Lewis, and I'm sure that what we built will continue going forward. I've had nothing but good feedback from Paul and the team in terms of the new inspector and his drive, and determination to actually push the neighbourhood team forward. So I think we've got a good foundation to build on that. And I think we've had some really good results from some of the multi-agency work that we've done more latterly around some particular hotspots across the borough. Again, that Paul and the team have pushed, with our partners and RSLs, and others, to get some really, really good outcomes. We're starting to use other tools as well in terms of increasing the amount of CPN, CPWs, injunctions that we are considering as well, which we haven't done previously. So I think all of that is really positive. To come back to the point, I think those officers are now coming in to post in January, Councillor Thomas, but we will. That's something that we'll be picking up, immediately when we meet with. It's early January that we're meeting. I think the first week in January back, we'll pick that up with the inspector and the superintendent, because that's going to be key. That's going to be absolutely key, because that additional resources is going to allow us to do a lot more and be much more proactive than we have been. So yeah, absolutely, take on board the comments, but myself, Paul, Ryan, we're going to be doing whatever we can to ensure that those relationships build up again really quickly, and are effective going forward to provide as safe as communities as we possibly can across Merthyr Tydfil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
I don't have any further comments. No. No. I'd like to thank you both for coming, especially in person. Makes my life easier. Thank you very much.
Take a photograph of me.
You're welcome to stay.
No, thank you. That's brilliant.
Thank you for your support as always. Thank you, guys.
Tuesday, man. The lockdown off. Bye. All the best. Thank you. All the best.
Okay, moving on. Item agenda, step forward work programme. Myself and Vice Chair Clive met with Neil last week. Drafted up. Neil's been working on another draft of the forward work programme. We'll circulate it. Things are moving. They seem to be, officers seem to want to move things. And we've got like 3 meetings left with feels like about 30 items. So we're trying to juggle things, spinning plates at the moment. We're waiting on a couple of items, I think. Destination management plan. What was the other? Grants policy. Town centre placemaking plan. We're waiting on to see when they need to come in. If it is essential, they need to come in this calendar year. So hopefully we'll have some detail in the next couple of days.
Can we get the town centre plan up a bit rapid?
You want about the traffic?
Town centre plan. The shops and basically.
We were just waiting on.
People are asking questions now because the market being open. What else do it around there? Because everyone's up talking about the market looks great and all that. What else can we do? Especially the whole market, they want to know what's happening there.
Sorry, all I was going to add to that, we have got a quarterly technical meeting Thursday. So hopefully get a bit more clarity as well through that meeting as well. Yeah.
You got on with the officers?
Yeah, they come into it. Yeah.
Oh, we go in next Thursday?
No, it's me, Clive, and the officers that will be there.
You'll get my bearings, right?
Yeah. 1 o'clock on Thursday, I think it is. So, we can go through it then. Geraint, I know you brought up about the traffic. We mapped out an area earlier. in terms of from Mormon up to Brecon Road, Mormon Church up to Brecon Road, and then down Pontmollus, and then down round Tesco's, up to Snows, and then round the gyratory. Is that what you were thinking? And all within there?
Yeah, and the parking as well, Lee, right? That's important as well.
Yeah.
Can we bring the retail park in, the roundabout?
Yeah.
Because David is there, he'll tell you. You go up there now tomorrow, this morning was evening. You go up the weekend, after Christmas, quiet. In February, in 12 o'clock.
I do find like the A470 I always find fine, and then going up to the tray, and then but down from A470 going down to B&Q, and
It's easier with me to go to barber shop to go to St. Jude.
Yeah, okay. We'll get some wording together and then get that out. Does anybody else want to say anything about food?
Well, you know, Neil, as you rightly said, is doing work now and bring this up to date. What didn't help us for this meeting is that we had a second item supposed to be on the agenda, was withdrawn quite late, and that was a problem, because we may have, with more notice, possibly been able to have another item later next year on this agenda, and that's why we're going to one item.
Yeah, I agree. John, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I think it is, Chair, on me.
Oh, sorry, you went, never went down. It must be your legacy. Gary, do you want to come in?
Yeah, you know, some of the things on our forward work plan, like the grants, we're not going to know about the grants now. When we know for the SBS, you know, replacement funding. So, really speaking, that's going to be in next year's meeting times.
Yeah, the grants policy is something separate to the SPF, and then we were supposed to have a workshop on SPF, but obviously that's not going to happen. That's not on there now. But yeah, it's a grants policy, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a brand new policy as opposed to any sort of specific.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just thinking, but would that line be aligned then to whatever the funding comes from UK government, right, to us, or because there will be, you know, checks and balances in that, wouldn't it? That may affect our policy.
Yeah. I suppose, Sarah, do you know much about the policy?
No, I mean, I think in terms of timing, I think Councillor Thomas makes a good point there, that there may, you know, because we know there's no successor SPF and it's a new fund, there may be differences in terms of the way that it's administered and things like that, that might need to be reflected in the policy. So I'm not sure that it might be that, and again, we could maybe check with officers on Thursday, but it might be that you could push that back a little bit, you know, into the early part of the next forward plan.
Yeah, we'll speak to the officers, and then we'll go through the fine tooth comb. I think like SPF is funded was supposed to be in this month. So waste budget proposal, grants policy. Said about the fly tipping policy, as it's quite new. We said, but that could go into the next cycle as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do some work, and we'll hopefully get it to you early next week. I know obviously the traffic one is a big one for everybody, so
Very good.
yeah, we'll try to get that in as quick as possible. Anything else? No? Oh, events policy is not coming back. Let's go straight to full council. Ignore me. Okay. Agenda item 7, scrutiny referrals. I haven't had any. Feedback on scrutiny activities outstanding. Corporate risk was supposed to be last week. It wasn't my fault. The Microsoft was down, so luckily Andrew it was down for Andrew as well. So I thankfully there was somebody else, and Judith was down, so it was more than me. So we haven't said
a date yet, but we'll arrange it for
Yeah.
January some point.
Yeah, we'll be, as Geraint said the other day, we'll all be risked out by then anyway.
I
so.
can't wait. I can't wait for it. Early Christmas present, Neil.
Or late Christmas present. Well, the early Christmas present was cancelled. It's anyway. Yeah. Feedback. Yeah. So we've done 8. Item agenda 9. Any other business deemed urgent for the chair? Yeah, I was just about to do it. I'd like to welcome Dylan to his first meeting. Yeah, so I'm sure he'll be a valuable member of the team.
Apologies for being a bit late.
Well,
I misjudged. I didn't read the times properly.
Somebody else did that. I appreciate it.
Down
Bit names.
on my calendar, it was 4 till 6 Teams link, and then 4:30 till 7 was a meeting, and I misjudged. So it's 4 till 7 really.
It's fine. Okay. You look at the yeah, it's fine.
Chair, Sarah, can we make some sort of arrangement, because Dylan's sitting there, no papers in front of him. I'm going to clear what we're talking about from job information.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. And this has happened over the past years. When we got members and youth members coming in, they want to know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Morgan, how will Dylan get voted? Will he get papers? Will he have a laptop?
He's not getting 10 papers, he'd be on his laptop doing it.
Okay.
So can we send it to his laptop, something like that? Because we're going to be careful with the local authorities, aren't we? Who always send papers out.
Step in a bit, Councillor Smith, that's where I come in. Working with Dylan at the moment.
Right.
I'll catch up with him after the meeting. But it'd be similar sort of access to what you've got through
Okay,
what the
great.
doc-up app and things.
As long as that's, everybody knows what's happening, because I'm afraid the young boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as
Well, laptop next
I course you're hungry.
as long as you have the same information.
Yeah, great.
So, yeah. 2 seconds. Check if there's anything. No, I have no other business. Just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm sure you'll enjoy the festivities and a bit of a break. So thank you all for coming, and just like to bring a meeting to a close.
Thank you.